Thank you so much for having me. I'm Christine Wacta. I am in Savannah, Georgia, actually, not in New Orleans, but that's okay. And I'm going to be really much presenting what I do as a designer, as a professor, and also as a human living in this very complex lifestyle. I'm going to go very fast. I know we don't have enough time, so I'm going to be sharing my screen, which I'm trying to do here. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes, that's
Excellent.
fine.
So I'm going to put it in presentation mode. So basically, what I do is not really just related to smart city or smart building. I really focus on smart human being, because I think that we cannot have smart city without smart human. I focus really much on what human do. And I use the game, GeoEdugaming, GeoDesign and Geospatial as a game. Using GIS as an X-ray. That's really what my work entails. So I'm going to be talking about the geodesign and gamifying, GeoBeam, which is the technicality, geodesign also get the sensibility and the geo-emotion, and then I'm going to be talking about my passion about the virtual experience as a platform. So what does game and architecture have in common? Well, they do have in common that they deal with spatial problem, they deal with intuition, uncertainty, they have rule-based, and they also deal with a network of systems. I really focus on resilience. What is resilience? It's basically looking at data, looking at city, understanding what buildings are going to be have a problem soon, so that we could understand which one are in urgency to be taken care of. So here you could see some of the work that I have done with the student. After doing a resilience, you need to find solution for a system that could actually, carry that city along if we have sea level rise. So we deal with all of those. Living in a coastal area, those are issues that will happen. I also really, in my teaching, allow the student to actually do this digital collage, because it's really about us as experiential. It's about how we experience the city. It's about how we use the digital tool, but we use it as pilot, not really letting this digital tool actually direct us, but we have to direct it. So we use it to the best of our ability, but we also don't forget that we are human behind that. Also, in my work, I deal a lot with AR and VR. We think about gestural recognition, vocal recognition. And this is just one of those, system where we really have to actually connect everything. How do we actually make sure that we understand our model? How could we actually virtually visit a city? How do we use, the power that we have to actually push those digital tools? Because the tool should not be used as a tool. We should use our inventiveness. So in those ways, I use the city as a platform. The city become a game platform where we could actually use tests. But we cannot actually use the city as we used it before. We cannot draw every building. We have to use the tools for procedural modeling, where we could in 5 minutes actually create a city based on the data that we have from the city. It takes a lot, and we have to actually use that city as a platform where we could actually interact, have the mixed media into the city, where we could actually look at the city in many different ways, project it, as a game plan, so that we could actually test all of the different things, spatialize models, so that we could be able to understand the city at every single level, so that there's no error in how we actually, portray the city. So those are techniques that we actually have and that we could actually use as a powerful. And those are things that I actually use in my teaching in ways that allow us to actually look at the city in all of the different facets, make sure that we understand how those tools will work for us and make sure that we use it to the best of our ability. So why do I use GeoBeam technicality, sensibility, geo-emotion? Because all of those are layers of information. We need to understand the city as different layers, all connected, living together as a system where we understand how actually to cross those data. After doing that, we understand that the world is in 3D. We need to actually extrude those city, those elements of the city, so that we could understand them, so that we could spatialize them, so that we could experience them. And then we could actually start understanding where the issues are to actually create model and sensibility, where we actually locate the zone or the areas that we need more intervention. And those are what we look at. So after crossing those data, we could actually start finding the problem, where the crisis is, where the intervention need to be, so that we could do informed decision. Then we look at the technicality of the BIM. How do we do informed decision? How do we look at city and actually use its resources to actually build it up to the level of how do you say, habitability or livability that we could ever have? And those are the systems that are actually, you know, used in this way of doing. So how do we go from concept to form, using our ability, using technology to actually give us the best of the best? You know, doing all of those different studies, it comes from, you know, looking at capturing all of the context, using digital engineering, and using the resources that we have in our intelligence. So those are the different things that I do in, you know, in my daily life, and I think they all connected. How do we look at a system of building, and how do we do a solar calculation for a whole year, or look at real estate and the peak where it's more important, so that we can look at it and understand how the city is growing? We could go from LiDAR to BIM, you know, in 3 minutes, and it doesn't take much time. We don't need 2 people, we need 3 minutes to do that. Or we could actually start visualizing a city in ways where we could actually create models that are visualized before we could actually even build those things. We need to be able to understand how we feel in a new design, and how actually we could actually visualize the whole city. What makes sense, what doesn't make sense, what needs to be switched. And those are the things that I actually deal with in my daily life. So how do we actually pick a point and make sure that we understand what are those views? Everything in red is hidden, everything in blue is something that you see. How do we do those predictions before we put building that will actually interact in our daily life? Or how do we actually create an urban design that is really, you know, flexible, so flexible that we could actually test, check, understand, make sure that we change, switch, predict the population before we even put it there? And those are all of the intelligence that are available. But in all of that, how could we do all of this very high standard design without thinking of the people? Because there's life behind it, and in that life there are emotion. We are people of emotion. 90% of our life is based on our emotion. So I look at a person as this image, this collage of mixed emotion. It could be good, bad, and we have those experiences as we go through the city. So the work that I have also developed, you know, in parallel to my GeoBeam, GeoEdugaming, is how do we use urban or people to actually be able to participate, you know, in the city design, giving their emotion. And with that, I have created this application. It's called the Geo Emotion Mapping. It's a system that allows the user to actually say, I am the user, I belong to this space, and instead of collecting my information without my approval, I am giving you exactly how I feel, so that I could challenge all of the information that you have had. So this application allows people to go into the city, capture their emotion, and actually be able to collect it onto a map. And that map allow the designer, or could be something that allow the designer. And you could see here my collection of emotion in Paris, where you could actually start understanding how I felt in different areas of that city. Can we actually, instead of just predicting what people are saying, allow people to actually tell us? So you could see a difference here between a fact of, you know, what a society or what a community look like, no young children, or what, an imaginary that a student created where you could see the poor at the bottom kind of supporting the rich. Is this inequity of the city that we have to fix? It's things that we see. I'm also interested in projection, 3D projection. How do you project all of that information? How do you look at issue, the feelings of the population, and be able to actually start projecting it in an area so that we understand what's happening? We have tools today that allow us on our computer to scan, and I'm really interested in developing those type of app where we actually could scan our environment in 3 seconds, where we could shoot it into the cloud and be able to use it to actually advance our life. Because it is not about focusing on just the technicality, is understanding how we feel. And those are things that I'm actually very interested in. How do we scan? How do we actually use GIS as an X-ray, where we could actually go from looking at the building to basically understanding the interior, what is happening inside. Just like we use this app to understand what's happening inside us as user, as people who are actually visiting a space, as people who are actually able to feel, to learn, to understand their city, and also to make sure that we go into it. So as I said before, I want to go back to the geo game video so that you could actually understand how do we actually focus on understanding how we could use the city in ways that actually advance human interaction.
Thank you, Christine.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Very impressive, very interesting college, digital college.